So I have a lot to say at first. It's the land acknowledgement that I'd like to do. I want to acknowledge that what we know as the US is the traditional territory of the indigenous peoples. Members of our group today are on the Tonkawan, Lipan Apache, and Comanche in Austin, the Chitimacha in New Orleans, the Creeks and Cherokees in Atlanta, the Lenape and Piscataway in Maryland, the Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples in Boston, and the Kahlua and Mohave tribes in Riverside County. Let's hope they turn up. So we represent everyone that's in our meetings. I'm Louise, and I will be facilitating today. I also want to say that Eracism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New Orleans in the summer of '93. We seek ways through person-to-person communication to show that we are committed to treating fellow human beings of all colors with love and respect. Join us. A little bit of housekeeping before I get you all to introduce yourselves. You raise one finger, wave it around a little bit. And I'm sorry if I don't mean it to be disturbing, but I will call your name. If I see that, I'll try to say your name quietly, that I'm adding you on the list, so you don't have to keep waving it around. Two fingers for a clarifying question. Now, of course, the clarifying question is, what did you mean by, or what does that word mean? It's not a jumping off point to give your opinion and then start a backwards and forwards between y'all. Mute, of course, keep on mute if you can the whole time, unless you're speaking, of course. I'm going to be off mute just so I can, call out people who want to regain the list. You have 1 minute to talk, but if you do have more to say, you can just put your name back on the list and, continue at a later date.
It's 2 minutes to talk each time.
Say what?
It's 2 minutes to talk each
2 minutes.
time.
Did I just say 1 minute?
You did.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's all right.
Today's different. We're having a shortened version. No, you have
talk
2
fast.
minutes, 2 minutes to talk. At the end of the meeting, though, we will have a wrap up, and then you'll have 1 minute. But if there are people that haven't said anything, those people will have 2 minutes if they want. There is no, you're not obliged to speak at all. You can just sit and listen. And this is a safe space. There's no personal attacks. And I think we will, I chose this, by the way, because I have once in my life, a few times in my life rather, before I got educated and learned a lot more, I would use that term, reverse racism. And so I'd like to think that I have learned that there is no such thing. And I just wanted to see what you all thought about that and get some other opinions on it. So who wants to start?
You want to have us introduce ourselves?
Oh my goodness, introduce. I know everybody, of course, but that doesn't mean that there's people who don't know each other. Okay, let's start with Phyllis.
Hi, I'm Phyllis, and I've been coming to Erace since 2008, and I'm in New Orleans, and I'm going to be the timekeeper for Louise, so I'm also going to stay unmuted.
Marion.
Good morning again, everyone. I'm Marion. I live in New Orleans. I've been attending the Erace discussion since 1993. And for those of you that may have been with me last week, I'm wearing this mask because I'm still dealing with this dental surgery episode. I saw the dentist last week, and she says, you got to go a couple of more weeks. So thank you all for not being terrified, and I thank you for your understanding.
You're welcome. Beatrice.
Hi, I'm Beatrice, been coming to Erace since '93 in New Orleans and here in Silver Spring, oh Lord, East Point outside of Atlanta, co-founder with my late husband of the Atlanta Erace. So glad to be here.
Thank you. Stanton.
Stanton, Austin, Texas. Been coming for a few months now, and I think the longer I come, sometimes the more confused I feel. So onward through the fog for me.
Michelle.
Good morning. I'm Michelle, and I'm also in Austin. And Louise, the facilitator, introduced me to Erace all the way back in the summer of 2020. So that's how long I've been coming. Been enjoying it. Thanks.
Francie.
I'm also in Austin. We're getting quite a crowd here from Austin, which is good. And I've been attending maybe a year and a half to 2 years, something in that range. And I was introduced through Louise by my daughter, Michelle.
Okay, Lynn, and it's good to see you, Lynn. I feel I haven't seen you for a long time.
Good to see you too, Louise. I'm back from my trip to Paris. And I know they're having a heat wave there too, so that makes it not so hard to be in New Orleans. Lynn Frank, I live in New Orleans. I have attended meetings since the summer of 2019. Thank you for hosting today.
You're welcome. Say that at the end of it. See if Nancy.
Good morning, everyone. I am in New Orleans and I have been coming to Erace since June of 2007. Okay. Yes, thank you for hosting today.
No problemo. Jean.
Yes, I'm Jean Walker from Silver Spring, Maryland, which is just outside the District of Columbia. And I've been coming to Erace New Orleans, I think for about 8 months. And prior to that, I was introduced by Beatrice because I'm a member of the Atlanta group as well. Always appreciate everybody's insight and our discussions. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cheryl.
Morning, everyone. I'm Joe, and I'm also in Austin. And I've been attending these interesting gatherings since about the first of the year. So, like Stanton, I think sometimes I get more confused, but I keep coming back to learn more. So, thank you all for enlightening me.
Is it Cheryl or Cheryl? It's Cheryl, right?
Good morning. It's Cheryl. It's Cheryl K because it was Shirley and Ken. That's the couple I found. That's why Cheryl is spelled strange, because my dad was being creative when I was born. Thank you for this topic, Louise, this morning. It looks really like it's a great discussion for all of us to have an understanding of this. So I appreciate your bringing this to the forefront. I live in New Orleans, Obancha territory, stolen land. And I've been coming since before Katrina. I was introduced, and then since you guys came to Zoom, you sent an invitation, and I'm really thankful for everyone. Glad to be here this week.
Glad to hear. Marla.
Hey, good morning. My name is Marla Burke, and I'm also in the New Orleans area. I've been coming for, I guess, close to a couple of years, and looking forward to the discussion today.
Martha.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marva. I've been coming post-Katrina. I look forward to this discussion today, like every Saturday. I live in the New Orleans area. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie, we're just introducing ourselves.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Stephanie Waters, and I've been going to the Atlanta Erace group since the pandemic started, and I wanted to have more conversations and education on racism. And I think this is my third meeting with the New Orleans Erase Group. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I think Leonetta, who I cannot see on the screen, but Leonetta? Is she still
Good
here?
morning, everybody. I am Lynetta. I'm from New Orleans, and I've been a part of the group since my internship in college at Southern University. Hi, Stephanie. Nice to see you. Hope you have a good day. And I have that invitation out for you if you need to talk.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get the fingers wagging. Who wants to be on the list?
I
Stanton.
think you missed some people.
Yeah, Pedro and Glenn, I don't think.
Glenn,
And
yeah.
Michelle.
No, she got Michelle.
Oh,
But I don't see Pedro.
Pedro and Glenn.
Well,
Yeah,
these
Pedro
are
and
people that
Glenn.
I can't see, so you're all going to have to help me if they.
Okay, because they don't have their video screens on, they just have their names.
Oh,
So if
okay.
the video screen is off, I think you can't see them.
I'm so sorry. So let's go, Glenn.
Name is Glenn Abdullah. Been coming to the race since 1994. Looking forward to the meeting.
Good, thank you. And apologize for that. Pedro.
Yeah, I'm Pedro in Austin, outside of Austin. Born in Austin. Been coming to the race meetings for a couple of years. And I really appreciate the comments that people say they leave more confused. I think that's indicates a curious and open mind, which is the greatest attraction I have for these groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. And I love the shades. Are you expecting sunshine in your room? All right. So I have Stanton already. Who else would like to? Let me just see. And anyone else? And you can raise your hand on the participant screen if you wish. All right, Stanton.
Good morning. So after having read this article, it actually raised some questions for me. So I don't have comments as much as I have questions that I kind of would like to address to the group and see what they say. I'm not asking these questions to be provocative or to be controversial. I'm just really asking them out of sincere desire to understand what we're talking about semantically. So I definitely understand that definition of institutional racism. Get it? That's what we live in, and that's what we live under. So would it be more appropriate to say there's no such thing as institutional reverse racism then? Because now the question for me is there more than one form of racism? Is there institutional racism? And can there be personal racism? And that goes back to not understanding some of what the comment that Larry made a couple of weeks ago, which still has stuck in my mind, that Black people can't be racist. So I think I would understand that if Black people can't be institutional racists, more than just saying Black people can't be racist. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as my confusion. And I'm curious to hear if anybody has some insight for me.
Actually, that's a very good question. Cheryl. And Fred.
So I would have to say, Stanton, that now I'm getting a lot of emails for trainings for corporations. And I myself am part of a large spiritual group.
Glenn.
Am I okay?
Yep.
The large spiritual group, and I actually had the pleasure of working with some really wonderful young people at university, like teachers, to do coursework for this group of people. So that was institutional racism, I believe, that we were working with there with that group, trying to train them all. And then through that also then different people learned from this class about their own personal racism. I don't know if that's helpful.
Thank you, Cheryl. Francie.
Well, I kind of have similar question with that Stanton posed. At our earlier meeting, a few weeks back when I asked, is someone like Clarence Thomas a racist who allies with white people? And this is the way I see it. I'm not sure I'm correct. At once you adopt that point of view, have you not adopted racism yourself, even though you are Black? You didn't create the system, but you're somewhat helping to perpetuate it. And I think that's kind of a confusion for me. So if anybody has anything to say about that, I would be interested. And I forgot to say, I may have to leave early today. So just letting everybody know.
Thank you. Thank you, Francie. Beatrice.
Yeah, I'm not attempting to respond to Stanton's questions, just saying that reverse racism, in my experience of the concept, has been an attempt by white people, European American people, to diminish the importance of racism and to delegitimize legitimate complaints of racist behavior. I'm thinking about the Bakke case, which was an affirmative action case about admission to law school in California. The case being made that by discriminating against or making decisions based on race that eliminate certain groups and include others, so that you're dealing with equity. This is an example of reverse racism. When we've had years of intentional discrimination, elimination, not allowing certain groups to participate, and finally trying to find a remedy to that is being named something that's bad. So my concern about that topic, about the concept, is that people try to diminish what racism and white supremacy has done to people of African descent in this country since we touched these shores, trying to diminish that by saying, okay, now you're doing that to us, kind of thing. And I think it's an important distinction for people to make, that this concept, as far as I am concerned, and as the article seems to be making the argument, does not exist as a real concept. This is something that people create to try to diminish what has happened because of white supremacy in this country. And so people want to stand on equal ground. Well, you did this to us, we did. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We need to look at history, face history, and see the long reach of what chattel slavery.
Do you want to get back on, Beatrice?
Probably, yes.
Okay. Well, we have Glenn, and then we have Beatrice again.
Greer is also on the list.
Greer.
Her hand's been up.
Okay, so Glenn. I thought that was Glenn. Sorry.
It was both.
Glenn, and then Greer, and then Beatrice.
Okay. Yes, I do believe that
and Leonetta.
you do have racism coming from African Americans. You know, the white man did not always have power to have an institutional racism in history. He never always had the power to institute, but he had that in him. And I was once a member of the Nation of Islam, and we believed that the black man was superior to the white man. We believed that we had like a little catechism. We were called the original man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, the God of the universe. You know, this is some of the theology that we had. Now, if we definitely would have came into power, the white man wasn't going to have a chance in this world if we would have came into power, you know, because of what we believed. And So don't say that we don't have that we don't have that germ in our body. When we are making, or when we put more emphasis on that, our skin makes us superior. The color, the ignorance of the color of your skin makes you superior. And that's the ignorance of the white man too. He's some of the most ignorant white men with no education would think that they're more superior, that they are more superior than Barack Obama because of the color of their skin.
Glenn?
Oh yeah, you can put me back up.
Okay. Greer?
There's a clarifying question from Marion.
Oh, clarifying question, Marion. Go ahead.
I don't want to answer.
Well, I'm going to ask the question anyway. Did members of your group go out and find white people, hunt them down, lynch them, go to their churches, burn the churches, kidnap the women, and
Is this really a clarifying question, do you think? Because he didn't bring any of that up.
Well, I was trying to be specific because I believe he gave generalities.
Yeah, I think you're.
But that's not a clarifying question.
It's not a clarifying question.
Okay, all right then.
Do you want to get
I
on the list?
told you I didn't want to answer your question.
You're welcome, Glenn.
Marion?
I'll get on the list.
Yep, okay. All right. Go ahead, Greer. Sorry.
My opinion is that people of color don't have the ability to be racist. Racism is based on power. The racism that goes on against us is based on power. And it's been an agenda since the first Africans were brought to this country as indentured servants and then permanently turned into slaves. This agenda has constantly morphed and mutated with gains that we've made in this country to take them away. It's not about hurting feelings. It's about having the power to be able to shape the lives of people. If I call someone a racial epithet, at best I hurt their feelings, but I don't change their world. I don't alter their future. I don't alter the future of their descendants. And as a person of color in this country, that's what happened to the people who came here, who started my line and my family, who were taken, either sold or kidnapped into slavery, who came to this country. Their world was not what it should have been, because it was altered and shaped by laws that were specifically put in place to control them. So no, Black people don't have the power to be racist. They can be prejudiced. They can be nasty. They can be, I'm not gonna use profanity, but I'm just saying, we don't have the power. And my uncle said, you know, if we would have came in power, if it's predicated on something to have happened, that didn't happen. But the racism affecting us has happened. And that's why we have this group. Okay, I'm sorry I went over, but thank you.
Right. You want to get back on?
No, not right now, but I'll raise my hand. Thank you though.
Beatrice?
I couldn't unmute. Just delighted to be following Greer because I agree with her 100%. Two things are important when we talk about who can and cannot be racist. Power and ability to affect structure. The structure of this country, the organizing principle of this country is based on what chattel slavery was, that there's a group of people because of the color of their skin who have to function at a lower level than everybody. Less privileges, and as Heather McGee says in her book, The Sum of Us, can't have nice things. And it travels through generations, and the generational trauma that exists because of that is carried. And so I agree with 100%. But the other thing to me is that we don't, to labor whether this group can be racist and that, people may come to their own conclusions. You have a right to do that. However, the important thing is, for me, is there structural racism in this country? Is white supremacy the organizing principle around which so much occurs in this country through the years, the lack of ability to be a part of the good things that were given to create a white middle class, all of that? Did that occur? It did. And so what am I going to do to fix and change it? No matter whether I say I was a part of it or wasn't, like the universities like Princeton, Jesuit, that are trying to make up for fact having sold people into slavery. What am I going to do now? Yeah, it's a nice argument for people to say, well, Black people can be racist too, and there's reverse racism, and my feelings been hurt. Please, go sit down. Look at the history of this country and see what has happened to certain people and continues to happen to us. So that there's a thing called weathering I've heard about. No matter what age a Black woman is, when she has a baby, her chances of living and the baby's living are less than white people. And that's in America, and it's worse in America in some countries in Asia. So I mean, I am so impatient with people who want to stand on some kind of low principle of, well, they did it to us, so we might. Get over that. Go look in a history book, find out what happened to the people who came here and what continues to happen to our people. What continues to happen and what part do you play in it and how can you fix it?
Thank you, Beatrice. Leonetta.
Yes, I want to comment on Stanton and Francis. Greer took my thunder about Black people being not being racist, but they can be obnoxious, ugly, and those are two words that she didn't use. But that they can not just be ugly, pass ugly comments, and when it goes into the physical things, they can be charged with assault things. But Black folks cannot redline white people. We can't do that. We don't have the police. We don't control the police and with the police brutality, like what happened to Aubrey Jogging, and it was a month, if I'm mistaken, before those men were even charged, and it wasn't done until, and it wouldn't have been done if it wasn't photographed. So that's the kind of stuff that what racism is. And Francis, as a social worker and as somebody looking at Clarence Thomas, this is just my personal opinion. I think he has a lot of self-hatred. And I think when he looks in the mirror, he sees a white man looking back at him. So that's why he adopts the principles that he has. He's married a rich white Republican woman, and he has taken on her values. And well, I think it was just a marriage of ideas and class and things like that. So those are just my opinions about Clarence Thomas. I think he has a lot of self-hatred, and he doesn't identify as an African-American man unless it's convenient for him to identify that way. And so that's just my opinion as a Black social worker. Thank you.
You're
Yes,
muted,
Stanton.
Louise.
Stanton.
Oh, Glenn, sorry.
So Stanton had a clarified question.
Oh, no, he wants on the
No,
list.
Stanton,
Oh,
you're on
I'm
the list.
sorry. I'm gonna mute myself and stay in my place in my lane.
No, I need you, obviously. Stanton, you're on the list, right? Yeah, all right. It's Glenn now.
Did Marion get on the list?
Yeah, she's after Glenn.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Now I'm being backseat driver.
Yeah, look, this is a discussion. And I hope that we can get beyond just being emotional and can reason about the subject. There's a reason people become a racist. It originated from somewhere. It was not it was not something that was in human beings. It originated from something. So if it can originate from somewhere, it can come. And since we all are humans, then we all can be affected. And if you look at history, you can see it in all race of people. I pointed out before, the Japanese thought they were superior to a white man. They look at the white man as a savage compared to them. They had an emperor they called the sun god. They had the flag of the sun had the flag of the sun. So if it's out there, if it's out there in the culture, you also can become a racist. You may not have the power to implement it in the way the white man has implemented it, but you can become a racist. And we have become racist when we pick up the same knowledge that he picked up, making our skin color only the factor, making our skin color the factor of what is superior. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Glenn. Marion.
I've said this before, and I told you all what racism actually is. It's acts of oppression, the physical acts, not just words, but actual physical acts causing severe harm to oppressed people, which were Black people and Native Americans. Black people can only voice how they feel. They make comments that are prejudiced, but there are no actions. And when I a few minutes ago, when I started directing the questions about, do Black people burn churches or lynch people or kidnap? No Black person went to Africa and kidnapped a white person and brought them back to North America. Black people can be prejudiced. In the article, there's some comments that Black people have said. I've never said them, but I've heard other Black people say them. White people can't dance. White people can't cook. That's prejudicial. Of course, white people can dance. Of course they can cook. How are they going to stay alive if they don't cook food? So yes, Black people can be prejudiced, but not racist. We have no power. We can't make laws that are going to hurt white people. So I'll go back and be repetitive and just simply say, I agree with Greer. It has to do with power. We have no power. We cannot affect laws that are greatly going to affect people and keep them subject to acts of aggression or these inhuman things that white people have directed at Black people. We can be prejudiced, but we cannot be racist. Thank you for listening.
Perfect timing, Marion. Stanton.
Well, I guess I agree with everybody, which is my problem. So, and just to clarify what I started this off with, I did not in any way mean to imply that the question I was asking was to be a red herring or a diversion from the question as to whether or not we have institutional racism. I am fully aware of the fact that institutional racism exists in American society and probably others, but this is the one we live in. But it still then leaves me with this other question, which I was thinking about before this group met. So if institutional racism is a fact, which it is, and that white people are the beneficiaries of institutional racism, my question is, and this is asked in earnest again, is every white person therefore a racist? And then if that's not the case, I'm back to being confused as to how you distinguish who's a racist from racism and what those fine-tuned definitions become and how we interact in that discussion. Because like I said, I agree with everybody. I agree with what Glenn had to say about other cultures and other societies being racist. I agree with what Beatrice and others have said about the power structure and that Black people can't be racist because they don't have power. I fully understand that concept. But then if the people who do have the power are therefore the beneficiaries, are they then all racist by that definition? Again, none of this meant to be provocative, just questions.
No, these are excellent questions. And Michelle, I think, is going to answer that for you. No?
Am I on the list?
No, did you?
Oh, I did. I thought you saw me.
Oh,
and
Leonetta. I got Leonetta. Did you say you want to be Phyllis?
Yes, please.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I'm next.
I hope this answers your question. Here in Louisiana, because I know you're in Texas, they've been trying to redo the congressional districts. The black legislators, the NAACP, and they all came up with this map that had 2 congressional Black majority districts in the state of Louisiana because Blacks make up 1/3 of the population. The Senate did not, the legislature did not vote on that map. They voted on one that just had 1 majority Black district. It went to court. The judge ruled and said that they have to come and do it again. So the deadline is Monday, I think, Monday or Tuesday of next week coming. Our Attorney General and our Secretary of State that I am calling out as being racist have went to the court to throw this out. That to me is racism. Not all white people are racist, but those acts of what these political people are doing, that is racism because you have the facts that Louisiana, to represent the people, need 2 majority minority districts, and they are fighting it. So I hope that explains it to you, Stan.
Thank you, Leonetta. Michelle.
Yeah, so I would suggest maybe, I don't know, have you read Robin DiAngelo's book? And I know she's kind of a controversial figure since she started. But I would offer that in the book of hers that I read, White Privilege, when I read it a couple years ago, it did offer up that, yes, based on the definition of what racism is, all white people are inherently racist. And when I first read that, I was like, wow, that's pretty bold and statement to say. But when I got to understand the definitions based on their true definition in the dictionary it did make sense to me. I was like, okay, I get this. And I think the white pushback against that is it's always been a kind of a nasty word. And I think we need to step back as white people and say to ourselves, yes, we can be racist, and that's just a definition. And that's just about our culture and how this country has been established and how it was established way back by white people. We created this, and therefore we created how we became how it was that we now are all racist. And I guess I've come to the point where I really, if somebody were to call me racist, that doesn't bother me. I'm like, yeah, I can understand that now. I have a definition in my head of what that is. And yes, that's true. I am, because I benefit on all levels from being white. And so it doesn't bother me. if somebody were to call me that, I'd be like, okay, that's a definition. And yeah, you're right. And with the people who it bothers, then that's on them. People that are white who that bothers. I just to me, I'm like, it's water off my back now. I don't really care anymore. It's not about that. It's about creating a society that works and is equitable for everybody. And a definition is a definition. It's just a word. And I guess that's the way I see it now.
Excellent. What she said. Glenn, you have a clarifying question. And Lynn, I got you on the list. Glenn, clarifying question for Michelle?
Yes, Michelle. First, give me the definition of inherit.
Inherit?
Mhm.
As in I inherited it from my
Right.
ancestors? Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that I've gained through my relationship to my ancestry, I guess, is one of the definitions.
Okay, so you are a racist, and every other white person on this set is a racist.
Yeah, I would argue that's probably pretty true.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Phyllis. And Cheryl and clarifying question, Michelle from
For
Nancy.
Michelle,
For Michelle, right?
you're muted.
Yes, for Michelle. What is that definition? That's what I wanted to know. Can you remember what it was?
I mean, I see it as somebody who benefits from a system based on their perceived superiority, and that superiority is that they have white skin. And so, yeah, I'm part of a system that over the centuries that this country has been created, I have white skin, and I've benefited through that over the centuries because of that. You know, my ancestors, everybody who's come before me who's had white skin, has benefited from the system that was created by the colonial establishers of this country.
Louise, can you put me on the list, please?
Certainly.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Phyllis.
Who you got on the list?
Okay, I've got Phyllis, Greer, Lynn, Stanton, Pedro. Do you want to
My
be
hand
on?
is up.
Your hand just went up. Okay, so you're after Pedro. All right, sorry. Let's go Phyllis. Definitely Phyllis now.
Let me start my timer. So a while ago when we discussed an article that had the values of white supremacy, one of them was to disparage emotions. And that is something that comes up in our conversations almost every time that certain person, Glenn, brings up, we shouldn't be so emotional. And I personally feel like not only is that a white supremacist value, but it's also sexist, because I don't think you ever would use that when Pedro or Stanton or Larry or Bill have spoken, and you would never apply it to yourself. So I would like us to try to not disparage people having emotions, because there's something wrong with not feeling emotional about injustice and oppression. We should feel emotional about those things. We should be angry, which is an emotion, and that people in this group have lived experiences that they have emotional reactions to about these topics that we discussed. So what I want to say about the topic is that I don't think a person of color in the United States of America can be racist because they do not also have the political and economic power as a group to oppress another whole group of people. You can name individuals, like, yes, white people lost their minds when Barack Obama became president because they thought that he was going to do what the white colonialists did to Black people, but it didn't turn out that way. But there's still that fear. So that's all I'll say for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Greer.
I had a question I wanted to ask Phyllis.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Clarifying question, Glenn.
Yeah, Phyllis, are you a racist?
Yep.
You are?
I inherited it just like Michelle did.
Mm.
Fight against it, but it's in there. It's in there. You have to be aware of it. You have to know you have a problem.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll talk later. Lynn.
I'm not next.
I don't know where to start.
Did I just, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I think I called your name and then I crossed it out, Greer. I'm so sorry. Greer, you're on. I apologize.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Someone asked, do we think that all white people are racist? And just listening to Phyllis and I forgot someone else who said it. I'm gonna say I do believe that. Now, there's different forms of racism. And we're talking about the forms of racism in the United States, because if we all lived in a society where it was just our own people who look just like us, and we had misgivings about dividing each other up based on something, it really wouldn't be called racism. It would be something else. So my issue with saying that is, okay, if all white people are racist, let's think about let's go to Germany. When they were taking away the Jews, even those who did not hate the Jews stood by and watched those people be marched to their death. When you don't affect change and you have the power to, that is a form of racism. If you're benefiting off of somebody's oppression and you do nothing, that's benefiting racism. So yes, you are racist. That's it.
Do you want to get back on, Greer?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Lynn.
Back in the days when I was a lawyer, we used the expression term of art. And that meant, well, this word has this meaning in this contract, or this word has this meaning in this law, but it's not the generally accepted meaning of the word. Now, it seems to me that our definition of the word racism is a term of art. We understand what we're saying, but the general population does not understand what we mean by that. The general population will just feel offended and hurt and said, you just don't like any white people whatsoever. You put us all in the same category, whether we vote for Barack Obama, we contribute to good causes, we march and everything. We don't feel racist. And that's because they're not using the term of art. They're using the generally accepted word of racism, which is a bad, hateful person who would do harm to their fellow man because of his skin color. So my concern is, it's not water off a duck's back for the general population. It's an insult that maybe turns them away from the cause that we're working for. Somehow we need to explain a special type of racism and a special type of lack of awareness or even ignorance, because a lot of white people mean well, but have a lot to learn about the way racism works. So it's a semantical problem. We need different vocabulary because we have to pull everybody along in this struggle. We can't turn off half the population with their use of a word to begin with. I hope I'm making some sense.
Oh, you're making complete sense, Lynn, as always.
Yeah, you're not emotional, you're very rational.
Do you,
You see Michelle's finger?
Point of
Louise?
order. Point of order.
who has their finger up? Michelle, okay. So I've got Stanton, Pedro, Glenn, and then Michelle. Anyone else? Are you putting your finger up, Cheryl?
I got got on the list a while ago.
Did you? I thought I was very good at writing them down.
And Stephanie is trying to get on the list too.
Stephanie, okay. So let's go Stanton.
Yeah, so actually Lynn sort of stole some of my thunder because as a former attorney, I was going to say words do have meaning. And so this is directed to you, Michelle. If back to what you said, if it's like water rolling off a duck's back, then it has no meaning. If someone calls you a racist and it doesn't bother you, or you understand that you internally understand that I get it, and therefore it doesn't affect you in a negative way because you understand where it's coming from. I'm still having personally a conceptual issue with, then it sort of doesn't mean anything to call you a racist. And if I call someone a racist, I want it to mean something. And I understand that I'm a beneficiary of white institutional privilege. I keep repeating that, but I don't want to be lumped in with the Proud Boys. I don't want to be lumped in with the neo-Nazis and the Klan. Again, I am an inheritor of two parents who were marched off to concentration camps. I lost multiple members of my family in the Holocaust. I don't know 3 out of 4 of my grandparents because they were murdered. Aunts and uncles were murdered. So I don't want to be lumped in with those other groups who absolutely, espouse racist vitriol and separation and hatred and, are what I would call a racist. But if you want to say that I'm a beneficiary of institutional racism, yes, I will say I'm a beneficiary just because of my skin color. Nobody else knows my personal history when they meet me. So yeah, it's back to semantics, it's back to definitional issues, it's back to what is it that we are trying to address as a group. And if institutional racism is the primary focus of this group, I'm fine with that. But I just want to know that that is what we're talking about in the future.
Thank you, Stanton. Pedro.
Yeah, I think racism is based on power disparity that's created and maintained by gross wealth inequality in our country and throughout the world. Slavery built that gross wealth inequality, and oppression are the tools used to create and maintain different manifestations of power and control privilege that maintains an unequal status quo, as Gigi said, which again is defined largely, if not exclusively, by gross wealth inequality. So white people, I think, can certainly be oppressed, as well as blacks, but the degree of that oppression can never be the same due to the racism manifestation of oppression that oppresses people of color, but not whites. So poverty, one paycheck from losing my home, shorter lifespans due to poverty, are all things that white people can face. Discrimination based on sexual orientation, all affect both whites and blacks, but racism does not impact whites, as we are alienated from our humanity, I think, by a culture that inculcates racism. I think it's true that we grow up with racist tendencies, but the culture we grow up gives us wall-to-wall coverage of tens of thousands of deaths in Ukraine, right? While practically not a single news coverage article on Yemen, in which the US has played a primary role in supporting Saudi Arabia and the Gulf nations in a campaign since 2015 that has taken over a million people of color. Anyhow, it sounds like I'm out of time, but
You are, but do you want to get back on?
yeah.
Okay. We might have to close the list pretty soon, but okay, so far we've got Glenn, Michelle, Cheryl, Stephanie, and then Pedro again. Am I missing someone? No? Okay, Glenn, take it away.
you know, just because somebody give a definition, that don't mean that's on solid ground. Or it's a definition now. Now we must all be in accord with this definition. We all must be forced to agree because somebody say it's a definition. That definition don't fit everybody. You gonna call John Brown a racist? Who was the spirit of our freedom? A white man who was the spirit of our freedom, who died for us? And many other white people who died for us in history. Because of the color of their skin pigmentation, you gonna call them a racist? No, I'm not going with all that little dumb stuff. That's not rational to me. Your definition is not rational to me. It must appeal to my rational mind.
Can I just jump in, Glenn, and say that there's no slander. It's a safe space. We try to not, call names.
I ain't call nobody no name. So look, more of you're interfering with my thought. Come after me and correct me. You're interfering with my thought.
I thought you'd finished. I apologize.
No. I hadn't finished. I see. I'm gonna have to get back on the list because you interfered with my thought.
Okay.
I had other things to say, but you
okay,
interfered.
You'll be the last one to speak then.
I just want to say, given that Louise is the facilitator, she is in her right to tell you that using the word dumb is not acceptable in the context of safety here. That's what she was trying to say.
Miss Racist, you say things all the time that are not correct, and don't nobody tell you anything because you got white privilege.
Okay, we're going to move on to Michelle.
Well, I guess I would argue in my defense here, and just in my opinion, is that a definition doesn't diminish the accomplishments of somebody. I mean, a person can be called a racist and still do great things. I mean, they can still, fight for the causes. There were plenty of white people that helped the Jews, and they were still racist because they still had privilege within that society. And that's just the definition. It's just a definition. And I would call out people who really get hung up on, being called names and being called things that are just the truth of what things are. And that's what I think is why it rolls off my back, is I'm like, it's just a definition. It's just a clarification of what it is we experience in our world. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, well, there is something wrong with that because we benefit from it. And other people don't. And so we don't live in an equitable society because of that. But that's just calling out, just trying to make people understand how that functions, how that works in our society. And it's just an explanation of how it works. There are people that are racist, that were racist, and white people, plenty of white people who've done great things, but they were still racist because they still benefited from the being that's in society. And I would also remind us that race is a social construct that was made up by white people to make themselves be more social. It was something we made up, and therefore we created the definition of a racist, I would argue as well. And I guess if people who have a problem with being called racist, maybe I think we need to reclaim the word as and have it be understood correctly. And I would say, for me to be called racist is an opportunity to say, yes, I am, and that's because, and it's not a bad word, it's just an explanation of what I am in this society. And if you need to call people racist and you still feel bad, maybe we need to reclaim the adjectives that create the differences in certain words. So evil, which is something that Larry is always talking about. So an evil racist or a hateful racist. There's a hateful racist, and there's evil racists, and there are also racists in society that are good, and they're doing the things they need to do to try and abolish that system that we created as white people way back when the rest of us here sitting here we're not even born yet, and we have just inherited it, unfortunately, and now we're trying to fix it.
Thank you, Michelle.
Sorry.
That's all right. Cheryl, we've all got a lot to say today, which is great.
Woo! Woo! I really actually want to thank Glenn, because I think Glenn may have said something, and I just sometimes I appreciate how articulate and well-educated people are, and that I just kind of throw things out here. But what Glenn said was really interesting to me about mentioning John Brown. He got all of us to just go for this perfect moment of silence and think about that one. And I really think that there was something there to show the difference between racism and institutional racism. John Brown was fighting against institutional racism. Was he a racist? That's a really big question, because I never spent any time with him, but he did get to have the good things. He could have not done what he did. He could have just taken advantage of the situation and made his life more profitable by continuing to stay within the system of racism. I always do. It's not water off my back if anyone calls me a racist. I've been called a racist twice by good friends that were Black. We were in the middle of big arguments, and I've always wondered if they really still think I'm a racist or not, or whether it was just we got so pissed off at each other that was a great thing to say to me, because we really weren't, or I don't know. So I've been called it before. It's not water off my back. It makes me think really hard when the word is used anywhere. Many of my white friends, we sit around and talk about, and we ask each other questions about things, wondering, was that racist or not? It's a conversation that comes up on how we can improve ourselves in case we are either being racist or participating in using the advantages of the systematic racism, which does allow me to be a racist, I believe. Until the system is gone, I will stay in that place until it changes inside of me. Am I a racist? I live in New Orleans. I'm white. I moved here from California. I'm a massage therapist. I moved somewhere where I was top of my game. I didn't have the competition of Black massage therapists, really. I didn't think about these things. It's just there, folks. I've thought about it and I've realized it. Also moved somebody where the literacy rate was 75% illiterate. And even though I don't have a college degree, I'm only like a trade school person. It put me in the top 25 people. I think there's racism involved in that, if I'm really honest with everybody. I'd like to be a better person. I will try every single day.
Thank you, Cheryl. Stephanie.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for everybody's shares today. It's really helped me. I was with the Atlanta group talking about what the Black and Brown communities need the white communities to do to have courageous, difficult conversations in our white communities about white privilege and white supremacy and racism. And that was the very same day my sister was shot by this white supremacist in Buffalo. And since then, I've spent, I guess, maybe 3.5 out of the 4.5 or 5 weeks in Buffalo listening to tons and tons of people speak on this very topic. And one of the great speakers did actually say, whether you are white or whether you are Black, we all know someone who's racist, implying that Black people could be racist too. And I knew it didn't sit well with me, but I couldn't articulate why. So I liked this article. This article really helped me because I don't believe that Black people can be racist. I believe, that there are prejudices, which in most cases are completely justified with all the microaggressions that we commit on the white community all the time. One of the articles I liked so much went from white people being ignorant and having denial to microaggressions to murder. And, we are trying to reverse that to be able to learn and listen and move from sympathy to empathy to action to anti-racism. So the thought of thinking of myself as being racist instead of trying to continue to listen and learn to become anti-racist and make a difference, it makes me want to throw up actually thinking of myself as being racist. But I also do know that until I continue to confront every bias that I may have and can continue to be open to that, that I can't learn and I can't make a difference. So I know I'm extremely uncomfortable and I'm not doing enough. I want to do so much more. I'm so angry just learning about more and more structural racism. I mean, I just found out it takes 3 buses to get from the east side of Buffalo to downtown where there's more grocery stores and more jobs and more everything. 3 buses in so much time and so many miles when it's such a short distance. That is structural racism. And I have become so angry with so many white people in the past 5 weeks, but I have to tone down. I have to calm down. I have to try not to judge them, right, for all of this, because I can't be effective if I'm so angry. So thank you guys for being here and for trying to tolerate each other's differences and all of this. I need to keep learning so that I can make a difference. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie. Pedro.
Yeah, thanks for those comments. Hey, for me to be anti-racist, which is a really important term, as opposed to non-racist, is to dismantle wealth inequality rather than just becoming anti-racist. Oppression for me and wealth inequality are inextricably connected. And I like what Glenn said, that it's true that all white people are born into a type of privilege that people of color are not, and therefore we are beneficiaries of it. But that does not make, in my mind, all white people racist. Racism implies the feeling of superiority. Now, I can have white privilege based on things that I really cannot control, but try to control and impact. But my feelings about and my commitment to those issues that create in racism and trying to dismantle them is profoundly different. And I think it is semantics, as Lynn said, these words and such, and we need to be careful in that regard. So I don't think all white people are racist, but they do have white privilege, and we are all affected by racism. I think, clearly language itself is full of indoctrinating elements that make us and ingrain into us as unconscious forms of racism and such. But again, I think the distinction of just saying, because I am white, makes me one way for sure is misleading. Barack Obama, our first Black president, under his administration, wealth inequality went up greater than any other president before him for many, many decades. So outcomes speak louder than words.
Thank you, Pedro. And Glenn, last on the list.
You know what? I never got my thoughts back. But I appreciate everything everybody was saying. And when I said that about emotions, that goes for males too. I've heard males in this group be emotional. Now, to say that I only think that way about women, I see women come before Congress testifying, who bring out the facts, no emotion at all, showing no emotion at all in front of all that stress being peppered by the different congressmen. Show no emotion at all. It's not a woman thing. It's just an individual. It's whatever level you are on. And they got some people in this group who are in that in that female idea that you got, you always got to defend womanhood, that womanhood is always being attacked. No, that's it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Glenn. And we're going to do the wrap up. And I just want to say, I think there's, tell me if I'm wrong, I've got Marva, Jean, Nancy, who have not talked. Is that correct? Did I miss someone? No? Okay, so Marva, do you want your full 2 minutes?
No.
Okay. Jean.
God, I'm technically challenged. Well, this is not exactly how I thought that this discussion would go, but certainly is very interesting. And in some respects, I agree with Glenn in terms of the teachings of the Black Muslims. I always think that the African Americans are the superior group because look what historically what everybody's been through, and you're still here, and many people are still thriving. I really am the school of Jane Elliott, which is we all came out of Africa. We're all brothers and sisters, and we should do the best that we can to make sure that everybody, or make our society more equitable, inclusive, fair for every individual. My family, I'm a white woman, but I'm a Black mother. My son is, his father is Black, and my son definitely is Black. We've been through a lot, particularly his teenage years, with police stops and, being bullied in school, either by Latinos, by Blacks, by whites. But he's a healthy young man in his 40s and very well adjusted, I think, at this point. And my granddaughter is Black. My great grandson is Black, and we're a beautiful mixed family. I do the best I can. That's it. And I thank everybody's perspective. It's been a very challenging discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jean. Nancy, 2 minutes, if you want them.
I do. And don't forget Marla. She didn't.
Yes.
Oh, Marla. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Marla.
Yes, thank
Okay. I want to say I agree with Stephanie. I agree with Pedro. And I agree with Jean when it comes to when you have biracial family members. You think that I don't know, you don't realize how difficult their lives are in a lot of ways because they catch it from all sides, from everybody. And my grandson is biracial, and he's the light of my life. But yes, through middle school and high school, he has he's had some difficulties and whatnot. And so I try to find, there are, this is not really what I wanted to talk about, but there are groups online specifically for mixed people of mixed race that you can, and one is called Mixed Nation. And I point to people for him, role models like Barack Obama, Patrick Mahomes, certain other people that he can look up to and communicate with. But what I really wanted to say was that I don't think just because someone is white, they are inherently racist. And if they have benefited from white privilege, it doesn't make them racist. I think that racism there's a malicious intent involved with racism, okay? It's somebody that is in, and this really happened, and I heard it with my own ears because they talked to me. And I don't know why they didn't think they were making a racist statement, but it was somebody who was in a position to hire and said, if I can't pronounce their names, I just throw their resume in the trash.
Oh.
That is racism on a very low level, but that is racism. Thank you all. It was a very interesting discussion. Yeah.
All right, so everyone else is 1 minute.
Marla is a
Marla.
2-minute person.
Dear
Yeah.
Marla, I'm so sorry. It's because I can't see you.
No, that's okay. Yeah, my camera's acting weird too. So, and I'm still in my car. I really don't have much to add. I mean, wow, I think my head kind of hurts a little from this, and I will have a lot of reflecting to do after today as I continue to reflect on most every day, to be honest. I would just point you all to the chat. There is a live discussion that will be taking place on Sunday to commemorate Juneteenth. It's via Instagram, and there are various price points depending on person of color or white, and all of the proceeds will benefit 15 families in need, specifically for mutual aid purposes. So I just, my thing that I think I'm continuing to focus on a great deal is the wealth disparity that we have, and how that is also so prevalent among different races of people. And for Juneteenth, I just think the top 3 things you can do are pay Black people, pay Black people, pay Black people, and support Black businesses, and continue to give money directly. I don't know much about mutual aid. I know this is slightly off topic, but I'm learning more, and I know that it seems a lot of folks have some resistance or concerns about mutual aid. If anybody has questions, feel free to ask me, and I'd be happy to try to answer or like point to some resources. As I've learned more, though, I find that it is the most direct way to give to people in need, and to make sure that that money is going to those folks who actually have very specific needs. So that's it. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and that's all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for everybody's opinion.
Thank you. All right, 1 minute. Let's start with Pedro.
Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, a great discussion. I wanted to go back in my last minute to the non-racist versus anti-racist that one of our guests presented. I think that's huge. Just for me to be feeling non-racist and not feeling that whites are superior to Blacks or any other color or type of person is not enough. And I think sometimes the white privilege thing argument kind of gets so lost into transforming myself individually without impacting the larger oppressive culture, which I think is what being anti-racist is all about. So I think we need to be careful to not over pathologize folks just based on their skin color, that it's all about ideology and what you do as a person. And I agree with what Marla is suggesting, that creating alternative economies through mutual aid and those types of things is a very tangible and functional way to kind of move in that direction. It moves pretty slowly. I think there needs to be a complete transformation, but I appreciate that. Thank you for a very, very provocative discussion today.
You're welcome. Thank you, Pedro. Phyllis.
Oh. Thanks, Louise, for bringing this topic. I think it was a stimulating conversation, and I think Erace does need to look at all forms of oppression that exist, and that includes patriarchal oppression, sexism, homophobia, transphobia. I think we have to get on board with the world as it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie.
Yes, thank you all for your discussion and your opinions today. It's definitely going to stay with me, and I'm just having more and more conversations, especially with the white community, and trying to help, because I feel like I'm either preaching to the choir or talking to a wall, and I'm trying to find some happy medium, because I really think that most of the white communities that I've been engaging with are just totally clueless. And when you're clueless, you can't even have sympathy, much less empathy. And if you don't have empathy, you can't take action. So I'm really just trying to learn more and more and try to make a difference. And I think whether it's embracing being racist or embracing white privilege, as a white person in white communities, we need to embrace one of the two so that we can feel ownership to become not just allies, but co-conspirators to try to make a difference in this extremely broken world. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Marion.
Louise, I would like to thank you for presenting this very timely, very provocative, very challenging topic to the group. I appreciate everyone's honesty and comments. And I think these discussions help us grow. Someone said they leave confused, but at least you're here. You're trying to engage and trying to get some kind of understanding about your fellow human beings who don't look like you. So once again, Louise, thank you. And I also like to say, it looks like there's a noose hanging behind your head, Louise, and it's been bothering me the whole time.
It's a power cord from my stupid AC unit in here. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, no, don't worry. There's no like weird macabre symbolism going on at all.
Oh, okay. But I've been looking at it the whole time. I said, I know that's not a noose, but it just, and then we're in this conversation
Sorry.
about the, awful things. So anyway, I'm okay. I feel better now. Thank you. But for the topic though, and thank everyone for the, I thank everyone for their participation in this conversation.
There, just look at the lovely picture of my mum's painting instead.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay, Francie.
Well, I want to join everyone in thanking you, Louise, for this topic and for your facilitator position today. And everyone's comments were very intelligent and provocative. Thank you. I don't have anything else.
Stanton.
Also want to thank everybody for their honesty and their expressions of opinion and their good intentions. And this has been a very enlightening Saturday morning for me. And I am grateful that I got to participate. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Michelle.
Yeah, thank you for everybody's commentary here. It is always as enlightening for me too. I appreciate it. And I just want to also offer some extra grace to Glenn. I'm always appreciative of his commentary, and he always, to me, I come away from it, he always wants to basically give everybody grace, including all of us white people who make lots of mistakes. He always, I mean, his comments always make me think he wants to find the good in everybody, and that's how I see it. So I just wanted to comment on that and say that that's the way I read Glenn and his comments. And I put in the chat as well another organization, showingupforracialjustice.org. It's a great one to check out if you're looking for ways to make an impact in some way. They have chapters all over the country. The chapter of Undoing White Supremacy Austin here is a member of the Surge, as they call themselves, organization. So they're everywhere, and they're a really good organization. I was just listening to one of their webinars last night as a push from the local chapter here in Austin. So I learned something all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Lynn.
I hope everyone has a nice week. I appreciate all of the thought you have put into this topic, approaching it from several different directions, but all with good hearts. See you next week.
See you, Lynn. Glenn.
Well, 1 minute. Thank you, Michelle, for that, those thoughtful words, and because you got me right. That's what it is. I look at, we are all human beings, and we all acceptable to doing, be angelic, and we can all can turn out to be doing things that make us into a devil. But we all are human beings and have all the same tendencies. And you know, I sometimes I jump on Phyllis' case, but I know Phyllis is a very good person. Very thinks, you know, she's always standing up for human beings. It don't have to be African American. She go all the way to the Middle East and stand up for people. So she's a very good person. She got good credit going for her. But every once in a while, she'll do something to irritate me, so I got to do something to irritate her. So, but I thank everybody for their comments today. That's all.
Right, thank you, Glenn. Cheryl.
Thank you, everybody, for the comments and the interesting conversation. I really think it was good that we discussed this today. Whether we're on the same page together or not, it's good that we shared. And I'll just leave you with this book that I'm reading that I think is so good. I just got it from the public library. It's called South to America, A Journey Below the Mason-Dixon to Understand the Soul of a Nation by Amani Perry. That's my plug for this week.
Thank you. Beatrice.
Yeah, good discussion. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Louise. I do not believe that all white people are racist. They may benefit from white privilege. They may have advantages because of skin color. But for me, racism is behavior. Racism is actions, microaggressions, white supremacy, nationalist behavior. When I was a principal, I used to tell people, do not call the student bad. Don't say the child is bad. Describe the behavior so you can work on changing it. So name calling does not make people change behavior. Sometimes it can close them down. No good outcome comes from calling people names. Now, if a white person decides they want to call themselves racist, if white fragility, reading that book or whatever it is, convinces a person, that is fine, and that convinces that person to reach inside themselves, change and work better, that's fine. But as far as I'm concerned, calling a person a racist is not going to lead to anything. It's a great discussion. Appreciate everything. And thank you, Louise, and love y'all. And stay cool. Stay cool. It's been hot here.
That's an impossibility, I'm afraid, here. Thank you, Beatrice. And lastly, Greer.
I really enjoyed this discussion, and I liked it more because it wasn't kumbaya, where we all agreeing on the same thing. We all brought our different aspects to it and their opinions. And there's no right or wrong to an opinion. But I enjoyed this because there was so many avenues that people were coming. Now, I got something to think about all week because this was too good. Thank you. I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Greer. Again, thank you to everybody's opinions. It was, I was a bit worried how lively this would be, and it was just perfect. You know, some great opinions, great inputs, and I only posed the question, so I don't have anything much to say apart from I do agree with all white people are racist, but then again, that is semantics, as Stanton was saying. Years ago, when I first dived into the anti-racism work, I went to a meeting where the Black facilitators said that all of you white people, you're racist. And it was like, whoa, what the, no, you can't call me that. And that really did, you know, make me bristle. I'm a nice person, I'm not a racist. And then my education continued. And yes, I think the definition of that was that we benefit, all people with white skin, even though I'm not pure white, I'm half Middle Eastern. I benefit from having a white skin. So, and then again, I think it was Lynn who perfectly put it as well. I love what Lynn said. And also I want to touch on something Stephanie said about empathy. And I think this is my take, this is always my input into what we can do, is educate people. There are so many ignorant people that have no idea that people of color are downtrodden in so many ways. They just have no idea. So educate them, and then they will have that empathy that they can then take away and move on and do further work. So anywho, thank you all so much. It was
Leonetta hasn't gone.
Oh, did I not do Leonetta's wrap up? Oh, Leonetta, okay, I'm apologizing now for being such a crappy facilitator and forgetting people. But you see, it's what the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over, as they say. And I cannot see Leonetta. I am so sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
You may not want to see me because I look a sight. That's why I didn't put my, I really look stressed out. But and tired. But anyway, I wanted to I enjoyed the topic, and I don't know if it's a Black thing, Marion, but I thought that was a news too. I had planned on asking that was thing behind. I don't know, but that's just what it looks like. And Stanton, I wanted to share this with you. I went to the domestic violence meeting, coalition meeting yesterday, and one of the police officers, I think the agency she was with the state police. She had asked for training from members of the coalition on how to deal with gay, lesbian, LGBTQ people, and I'm thinking that was because of Pride Month, and she asked for training because she said she just don't know how to deal with that community, and she don't want to offend them. She don't know what to say, and I just wanted to share that with you, Stanley.
Okay. Sorry. I was just reading another comment about that rope. Sorry, guys. I mean, lest we forget. Anywho, that is the end of our discussion. And I think if we stop the taping, and then if there's any